Hey, consider this your invitation to the inaugural Mountain Craft Film Festival. Films, movies, motion pictures, whatever you call them, they're coming to Clarksburg, West Virginia this coming September 29th and 30th. 4 feature-length films by local filmmakers, as well as countless short films from Appalachia for Appalachia. Not to mention food trucks, artisanal vendors, networking opportunities, an immersive virtual reality experience, and much, much more. All under the roof of the beautiful historic Robinson Grand Performing Arts Center. Purchase passes now at mtncraft.com/film festival. Sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with festival news. And don't miss out on a single story these voices have to tell. Sorry.
WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Welcome to West Virginia Uncommon Place. My name is JR, and it's been a while since I've done interviews. Actually, this is the second interview I've done today, and I haven't done interviews since, let's say April. Everything else has been kind of curated and moved into certain fashions. And it's been because of one thing. I have to be careful how and when I spend money inside podcasting. And that is going to tie a little bit into who we're talking to today. She has an amazing book that we will talk about in a minute. I am going to introduce her, and I will not chop up her last name. Her name is Kaylee
Boisvert.
Now, Boisvert, I want to do this for the audience real fast, and this is for the audio listeners. It's Boisvert. So the way that I was going to say it was I was going to take like Webb Du Bois's last name and take the very ending of that, and I was going to take Vert and put those together, but it's a French last name. So Kaylee, real fast, the greatest question that is asked on the show is the question that is the most nostalgic. We want to know real quick who you are, why you are here today, and then this is the last part of it, a fun fact about you that no one knows except someone in your family.
Okay. So my name is Kaylee Boisvert. I am a financial professional, and I love all things money, numbers. And I recently wrote a book based on that. Because of that, it's called Make Money Your Thing. And so it's really the goal behind this book is to empower women to build confidence around their financial lives. So I am a single mother. I'm, financially independent. I am responsible for my household finances, raising 2 little ones on my own. And so for me, this is so important. And I was also raised by a single mom. So it's so important, I believe, for women to really get empowered, independent, in control of their finances. So important. And that's why I wrote the book. And that's been my passion for years. So I've been in the finance industry for about 15 years. And then I felt called to write this book kind of when COVID hit and everyone was sort of going indoors and things like that. I wanted to create something that I could share with a larger audience that I felt could really have an impact. So I wrote this book, Make Money Your Thing. And I truly believe it can change the way that women relate to money, the relationship we have. So instead of saying things like, I'm not good with math, I'm not good with numbers, money just isn't my thing, I want women to really embrace and feel inspired to say, money is my thing. And I believe that that can take place with a little bit of a confidence boost, which is going to help lead them to action in their finances and their money. So that's kind of a bit about me and what I've created and what I do. Fun fact about me, I am like a huge Real Housewives fan. Not really anyone knows that other than my daughter, because I don't know. I don't know if that goes well with financial professional, but I watch all the Real Housewives shows religiously. I love it.
And that's a lot of them. I mean, it
It's a
started out
lot.
small and it's just, it's really expansive. Like it's really big. So I have a question I want to ask you. And the question is, what were your first thoughts on finances? Like what tied you into finances? And I told you in our pre-call what happened to me. It was a vehicle that started me worrying about finances because I had to worry about the gas, the car insurance, which was crazy because I was in Virginia, where I'm originally from. I got my car at 15, but at 16, I had insurance and everything. And my mom made sure I paid every single thing that had to go even down to, we had to have inspection stickers in Virginia. So I had to take care of all those finances and I had to make sure that I had a job that made sense. So I ended up having to get 2 jobs at that age. I was a soccer referee and I worked at the local Domino's. And I was a wrestler also on a high school team. So I wrestled, played soccer, did all these things. And that was my first thoughts on finances. Like, how am I going to incorporate making all this money I need to take care of things while still having time to do everything else that I want to do? So please let us know, what were your first thoughts on finances, or what basically tied you into having to think about finances?
Yeah. And I love that your story you shared too. Mine's very similar in the sense of like, I was 15 and working 2 jobs because I wanted to buy the car. So I was working at like Dairy Queen and Subway double shifts over that summer. But even before that, it was earlier for me. So again, I was raised by a single mom. We didn't have a lot. So when I would ask for the things, right? Because your friends sometimes have these things, or you see them on the commercials and you want them so badly. And for me, it was a Super Nintendo. My best friend had a Super Nintendo. I wanted one so badly because I didn't want to have to wait to go over to her house to play Super Mario World and all those fun things, right? I wanted to be able to just play it whenever I wanted. So I was asking my mom for a Super Nintendo over and over and over again. I think I was like 8 or 9 at the time. And she said, her answer is no. And then I think she got tired of it. And so she changed her response. And instead she said, if you want one so badly, buy it yourself. And I was like mind blown, because when you're a kid, when it's not a no, it's a yes, right? So you're like, well, that's a yes. I just have to figure out how to buy it. And so I did everything I could to like squirrel away money to buy that Super Nintendo. Like I had this little tin can that I hid in my closet because we grew up in like not a very safe neighborhood. So I was already like being diligent about where I'm hiding my money. And I would go with my sister on her babysitting jobs and ask her to like split some of the money with me, just anything. It took me probably almost a year, over a year, I think, to save up the money. But then I remember like walking into the store, it was Future Shop at the time, and like buying my own Super Nintendo. And it was like the most amazing feeling, because it just felt like it was like this, I did it. And then when you do that, you kind of are on this high of like, I can do anything. And so that was like the beginning of finances for me. And I thought that showed so well that like, the idea of like the cycle of poverty and things like that doesn't have to be the case. And I was finding out right then, that early on, that I could change my reality, that there's other things possible. And again, you do one thing and it's like a stepping stone to more, more, more. And that was like I said, so then 15, I saved up, I bought my own car. I had a car before all my friends had cars. And a lot of them were given cars by their parents. And I bought it all with my own money. So it was just that Super Nintendo was like the first, like you say. And I think we remember those first money experiences, and they can be very pivotal on our journeys, depending if they're, good or bad, positive and negative. That could also have an impact. So that was what it was for me. It was this really empowering, I can do anything. And I think I wanted to now like share that with more people, knowing that was my beginnings.
And that's amazing, because like you just like that, my heart, I'm a video gamer. I don't have my original Super Nintendo. I bought that little small NES classic. And like you said, like I've gotten, so just, this doesn't even tie into this, but I just want to put this out there. I bought the NES classic. I bought another one to put in a case just to keep. I remember that system, and I don't remember, it was somewhere between 91 and 96 that I wanted that system. I remember like exactly what you went through, and I didn't buy that one, but I had to buy the Nintendo 64. So I know the struggle. And my God, I just want to say this to you. I looked at the index of prices of games. What you paid for the games back then are more than what we actually pay for games now.
Oh,
because the Super Nintendo, because if I remember correctly, Super Mario World came with the system, but other games were like $69 and $79, and we didn't pay attention to it when we were young like that. But now games are like $49, $50. They're going back to $75 now, but that's a crazy tie, and I want to thank you for that. And I don't want to go too far into that, but that's on my heartstrings, the Super Nintendo. Now, you get older, you get through high school. Did you attend college?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I took business.
Okay, so you get into college, and college was another little place for me. I had to pivot in college. College was different for me because the money that I made there had to be stretched in a full circle. It had to be the evolution of what was to come, or it had to take care of that weekend or that party, mind you. And sorry about that, Mom. I did party back then. And for you, what was a pivotal moment? Like what changed your mindset from the 15-year-old Kaylee to the 18 or 19-year-old Kaylee?
Yeah, you're right. That is another big one too when you're doing on your own. So for me, I knew that my mom couldn't help me pay for my education at all, again, being in her financial situation. So she did let me live at home for free when I went. So I just had to save up for all my classes and courses. And you're right, you have to plan ahead because you're thinking, for me, it was like paying my tuition and then the other stuff, like you're saying, the fun stuff that you want to do as well with your friends and whatnot. So I, again, worked 2 jobs. So I was working at Pizza Hut and IKEA and managing to go to school. And like, I'm also a little bit of a perfectionist, so get like my straight A's, and I managed to do it. So I mean, I hope this is for, people hearing this, knowing that the idea of going through college and, we're going through this time where we're hearing that student loans are at this all-time high, and it's a big like pull on people later on financially. So just keep in mind that there's possibilities that you can save up and do some of this yourself, and it does make a big difference. So that was my experience. And I was going to business school, learning about finances and investing. And there was like people in my classes that were getting student loans and like investing the money and making more on it essentially for the time being. So then they would have to pay it. When they paid it back, they'd have make money off borrowed money, which was very interesting and kind of risky on their part. But for me, again, someone who like loved money, numbers, all things, I was still like very much like scared and intimidated about investing. So I write about this in my book about, if you think investing is scary, by all means, I can get behind that, and I see where you're coming from. Because from someone who, again, did it all the way through university, was around it, I was really scared to dive in, even with everyone around me doing those things. So I found that to be interesting, that it was a very scary realm for me, investing. I felt like you had to have a lot of money or be almost like a certain person, like almost like my upbringing. It still felt like I didn't belong in the investing space.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. So you get out of college, and I keep tying in pivotal stories with me because they kind of work out with what we're talking about tonight or this evening. I got out of school. My mom sent me to go work for this grocer called Kroger's. And she didn't send me to work for them in this kind of measure, like you go in the store. She sent me to go work on a reset team that remodeled stores. So the first thing that I had to learn about, and this was the hardest thing in finance for me, was I wasn't worried about the paycheck. I wasn't worried about that. I had to learn about a hidden paycheck, the benefits for me to actually come to work. So once I learned about them, the job that I took with Kroger's and traveling and stuff like that was very enticing. But it was one thing that they hit me with, and that was an IRA, a retirement, a Roth account, learning this type of financial knowledge. And obviously you had this information while you were in college. So with the knowledge and wealth that you had from college, going out into the working world, what was it like the first day for you in the working world and whatever job you secured, having all this financial information, but like translating it back to yourself? Because the greatest thing that we all do in life is we can help everyone in the world, but sometimes our own advice we will not take. So how did it work for you?
You're so right. Because doing all those things, I'm like, check, 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 like you're doing all the right things. And if all young people did that, that's the best start you can give yourself. But I didn't. Like, I did all the wrong things. So you're very on point with that. I had like a matching program where the employer would put in, and I would have to put in some. And I just opted to like delay. I'm like, no, I want the money now. I need it now. Like, so I did all those things knowing and getting this financial education. It took me years to, maneuver, shift, and get those things right and get those things in place. Probably like a delay of 5 years or so, where if I do the math on it, and I do it in my book for the readers, where it's like, if it compounded and grew, I think it equated to like $500,000 I potentially missed out on because of that late start. And it's just like, so I think that even more so goes to why I do what I do, why I want to have these conversations with young people, because anyone I'm talking to, when I'm talking about these conversations with finances, their biggest regret and the thing they're saying time and time again is, I wish I started sooner. I wish I started investing sooner. I wish I got that early start, took advantage of those programs like you're identifying. So if anyone, young people listening to those are the best things you can be doing. If you're feeling like, out, like I'm overwhelmed, I'm not sure what I should do, I'm just getting started, just doing those things are the things that you need to be doing. Just those things can make a massive difference.
Okay. So we'll move a little bit further into some age progression. When did you become a money boss? Because a money boss is something that's coined from you. You're a money boss. So I want to know, when did you become a money boss?
Yeah, great question. So probably like later in my 20s. I finally clicked and okay. I'm like, I need to do this for myself. You're right. I was doing it for other people. I was in the finance industry, working with people in their finances and doing all the things and not doing it for myself. So my late 20s. And then a really big wake up call was when I had my daughter at 29. I had my daughter. I was on mat leave. And that was the moment where I finally, got up the courage to say, I'm going to be like doing what I feel like I'm meant to be doing. And that was working, really like leaning into supporting women, helping women with their finances. Because again, I myself had been really scared and intimidated, felt like I didn't belong. I had a lot of early money experiences though, but still I felt those feelings. I was raised by a single mom. I am a single mom. And so I felt like I had, all these experiences to really bring and support women and create this comfortable, space for women to really feel like they can talk about these things, feel safe talking about them, feel comfortable saying, I don't know this, or I don't understand this financial jargon. Like there's no such thing as a dumb question. I always tell people that, but that was the moment. Having my daughter, it's that change you have inside yourself when it's like you have someone else to take care of and someone else that you want to do you want to make their life the best possible for them. And I didn't want her growing up the same way I did. Like I wanted to change that. I wanted, when she asked for the Barbie dream house or something, I wanted to be able to buy her that. Like I remember being a kid and wanting the Barbie dream house more than anything. And I never got the Barbie dream house.
Oh, whoa. That's rough.
Sad. Yeah. We were at
Walmart
a few weeks ago or months ago, we were at Walmart and we saw the Barbie dream house, and Ivy knows the story, my daughter. And she's like, Mom, why don't you buy it right now? And I was like, I could buy lots of Barbie dream houses right now.
And one thing I like that you said, and I want the audience to wrap around this, you've stated this twice already in the episode. You created an atmosphere. You created an atmosphere so that women can feel empowered and embrace their lack of skill to getting the skill with your book and with your help. And I really like that, because you got to have a place to breathe. Everybody can have a space. We can go in spaces, but you said something and I kept listening. I said, she's saying an atmosphere, because that's something, not a stratosphere, but the lower atmosphere where you can breathe. And I appreciate that. And I want to thank you for that early one. If no one has told you that, because it's hard to do that for single women. Because I know my father was passed away, so she was widowed, and that's how she became single. So raising me and my sisters, I can feel and I understand where you're coming from, because it was a time that I was told no on something and I had to go out and, work and do and get things. That's how I did all the jobs that I did, 15, 16. So you have wrote this book and you have different parts to it to help women. And something interesting inside this book, you want these ladies to go on a date with their money. Mm-hmm. Explain to me real quick how you go on a date with your money in your eyes. And with this, with obviously the video that people can see on Twitch right now, and audio, you can produce an imagery with it. So give us your greatest imagery of going on a date with your money.
Yeah. So you go to the bank, you get a whole bunch of money out, and you just make it rain. No, I'm just kidding. That's not the money date. But that's fun too. But okay, so a money date is spending dedicated time with your money. So we work so hard earning our money. You spend hours and hours every week, month, year, but how much time are you really giving back to your money? And I think that's one of the biggest sort of mishaps, the piece that's missing for so many people is they just don't spend dedicated time on their money, with their money. And so that's a money date. Like I picture it as like a date where you specifically put it in your calendar, you set the date, you're not going to stand up your money. Like you have this standing obligation, just like a date, I would hope you're going to show up and you're going to spend that dedicated time. So it's like, turn off the distractions and things like that and really focus in on your money. And it could be, and make it fun too, like get some wine or give yourself a treat to make it a fun experience as well. And it can look different. Like I give some ideas for different like money dates in the book, and I find some funny ways to describe it. But just thinking like one date could be, if you're someone who says the words like, I have no idea where all my money goes. That's a common phrase people say. So let's say you have that money date scheduled next Tuesday at 7 p.m. You're going to spend 30 minutes just going through past transactions and breaking down, okay, how much am I spending? Where is it going? Where's the biggest category that I'm spending? And just diving into those numbers a little bit to get more like reacquainted with your money and find out more about it, just like on a date where you're trying to find out more about your date and get to know them. The same thing with your money. So, and you don't have to be in a relationship to have this date. So you can do this date solo. If you're in a relationship, do it with your partner. It's a great time to communicate about money, come together, have a conversation about money. But that's all it is. Maybe there's something you don't know much about, but you want to know more about, like in your own finances. Maybe you're like, I want to get a better idea on what interest rate I'm paying, or how does the interest like work on my credit card if I don't pay off the balance, things like that. So then you spend some time reading articles or listening to a podcast like this or something to just find out that information. And that's what you did on that money date. So it can be different every time, but it's just giving that dedicated time and attention back to your money. Because again, we work so hard. You work hard for your money, right? There's a song where it's like, she works hard for the money.
Yeah. So hard for the money.
Yeah. So let's give back. Let's spend some time in it. And that's it's a step everyone can do, and it will make a difference. It feels good. I did it literally last week myself. And I just felt so good. I felt like so in the know, empowered. I saw some subscriptions I was paying that I wasn't using anymore, canceled those. I think I saved like $200 a month in some of the changes I made. And I'm like, wow,
Whoa.
I feel good. Yeah. Now I can take that money and put it to something else that I maybe means more to me, right? Saving for my child's education, going on vacation, like maybe something that I value more.
Okay. And I can get that. And I like that. So one thing that I need to find, and this is something that is kind of controversial in some areas, because when you ask someone this, you're going to get different opinions, but I want your strong opinion because you have two books that we're going to talk about in a second. You mentioned one book, you got a second one we need to talk about, but I need a terminology for what you describe as a financially independent woman, because I'm going to tell you something, and this may sound wild. I didn't truly understand financial independence until my 30s. Because the shackles that I was always taught, if you're not buying a house, you're renting something, you're, like you said, subscriptions to everything. Like, television is the greatest example I can use. We're never independent of these things. If you don't watch TV, you're fine. You don't have to worry with it. But now I went from cable to streaming services, and streaming services over time have now gotten to the portion of what the cable bill used to be. Because there's certain shows I want to see here and there. And then there's other alternatives to getting these shows, like bootlegging them and stuff like that, which I'm not going to say I do or don't do. But, cutting the cord, I thought I was going to have independence there. And I didn't get it. I had independence for a little while because, yes, I saved some money. But then 4 or 5 years later, from Netflix to Disney Plus now, I spend $50-$60 now across the whole thing. And that was what I was spending on cable, trying to get away from it. So can you explain to me what a financially independent woman is to you? Or we'll just use financially independent. It doesn't have to be woman, but we'll put a woman in there because that's who we're talking to today in this show.
Yeah. So, it's really just like being in the like driver's seat, being in that, like you said, money boss, being in charge. So it's just like being like, I think of financial independence as like when you are in control. And I don't think that means you have to be like a multi-millionaire or billionaire before you feel like you're financially independent. But financial independence can just mean like you've got it covered, from all your bills to also, saving for your retirement or financial freedom or whatever that is, going on the vacations you want, doing the things that you want to do. I think we put a lot of pressure on it, and people almost think like most of the time that they're just not succeeding when it comes to money. So much of us just sort of write ourselves off and again say like, I'm not good with money. I'm never going to be able to do this, or I'm never going to be able to go here or go on this trip or do this like big thing that you dream of. But I don't believe that's the case. Like, I don't want to see money as something happening to us. I want it switched around, and it's you're in the driver's seat. You're getting to decide, what do I want to do with my money? So we all probably have, different amount of resources, and it depends on a lot of factors, like the type of job you're working and, whether you're entrepreneur or employee, things like that. But there's still an element of financial independence you can have. And it's just a matter of being in control and really feeling like you're in the driver's seat. Again, money's not happening to you. You are directing, okay, my money comes in every month, and then $500 goes out to my retirement savings, and then $200 goes to my children's education savings, whatever it looks like to you, because everyone's very unique with their money. And I talk about this in the book about, embracing your own money uniqueness. But it is just that. It's that you get to decide, you get to choose. Money's not happening to you. And when you change it around and when you look at it that way, it feels so much better. It's so much freeing. Like, it's such a heavy weight. We carry this burden of like finances and stress, and it like feels like it's limiting to our possibilities and what we can do with our lives. But when you change that around and you can look at your scenario differently and decide that you're going to still be in charge of doing what you can with the resources you have, it feels so good.
Okay. And I like that. Now, tying into something that you did amazing this year, you put out 2 books.
Yeah.
You put out a children's book and you put out a nonfiction book, which we've already talked about. Could you give us some key takeaways from both books? Give us the name of the children's book, and then give us one more time a shameless plug for the book that she just spoke about, Make Money Your Thing.
Yeah. So the novel is called Make Money Your Thing. And so it's like nonfiction, all about helping women with their finances. And then I also wrote a kid's book about a little girl learning about money. So it's a kid's picture book. I just got copies in the mail. Actually, it comes out September 19th, and it's great for like ages 4 to 7-ish, I would say. And it's just a little girl who fills up her piggy bank, and then instead of just like spending it all and that instant gratification, she learns like, what does my mom do with her money, and how her mom saves her money and saves it for other things. So then Mabel gets to open her own bank account and start thinking about like what she's going to do, like her big money goals. And so that's the story. So it's based like a little bit again on like my beginnings and background. And then my daughter was around 5 years old at the time. So she's sort of my inspiration for the character, Mabel.
Okay.
Because she was terrible with money, and that's where it came to me. I'm like, what am I going to do with this one? She's awful. So it's just like, how can we just inspire our kids? Kids are so fun when it comes to money. Like, they're always thinking about the possibilities and they dream big. It's like before life happens, and it like squashes all your dreams and
right. It takes all your ambitions away, or your aspirations, and then you have to reform them as an adult. So one thing that we do on the show, we do a shameless plug. And a shameless plug is a way to get people to be able to meet and greet you on the internet and to find out more about you. Because here's the thing, people are going to gravitate to your books. They're going to gravitate to you for more services. So how can people meet and greet you across the internet?
Yeah. So my website, it's just KayleeBoisvert.com. And again, my name's spelled weird. So it's Kalee and then Boisvert. So .com. And then Instagram, same thing, at KayleeBoisvert.com. You can find me. So those are probably the 2 best places to see some of what's going on. And I love hearing from you. So reach out to me if you do have any questions, money related, any money wins you want to share, any ideas. I love hearing it.
Okay. Now we turn over to a portion of the show that I do. This is the nostalgic part. This is basically sometimes what I feel like the show's built off of. As a kid, I used to be Friday night and I would be watching TGI Friday. Back then it was Family Matters. There was Patrick Duffy's amazing Step by Step. Boy Meets World came on in between there, and I don't remember what the other show was. It was some show with some guy named Belky on it. I forgot the name of that show, but anyway, everybody remembers that time, but everybody remembers at 10 o'clock. It was a hard time. Some people had to go to sleep, but I was one of the lucky ones. I didn't have to go to sleep. So there was an amazing news magazine, and it's still the one today. God rest the soul of one of the reporters that was on there. John Stossel was on there, and he was a comedic relief. He told you funny jokes on this show. Diane Sawyer was probably one of the greatest interviewers of my life. But the GOAT, the best of them all, was Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters would ask these personable questions on this show called 2020. And 2020 did two things for me. Sometimes at night, it got me to stay up a little bit past 11 because it ran to 11:05 if they had something interesting going on. And sometimes it ended at 11 o'clock. But what it did to my Saturday morning as I was 8 and 9, it made me question things and think more about things because I was still watching cartoons, but I'd be like, she covered this, he covered that, whatever, but it made me become more personable and start asking better questions. And that's what made me a better podcaster, because I will go back and watch older episodes, anything from 99 and back. And it was a different interview style. We didn't have so much of this. Media now is different because the information is everywhere. You can get it quick. In our time of growing up, you may have had AOL or Netscape or instant messenger. We had that, and that's how we spread the news. And then some people, which I still think I'm going to do an episode about that, the ICQ chats. I was on there, and we won't talk about that on air or on Twitch, but I will say that there were things that went on there, and the knowledge, and that was just basically was a dark alley sometimes. So you had to be careful there. But getting back over to 2020, Kaylee, it's time for me to ask you some 2020 questions. These are very personable questions. These are questions that are outside the box. These are questions that will motivate people to move and groove with you through all your endeavors for the rest of your life. So are you ready?
I hope so. Is it fast? Like I have to answer fast?
No, it's not fast.
Okay.
You'll take time, because the amazing thing about me is I'll put filler in there. And this is cool because we're live on Twitch. So I want to do this to one like this. And audience, please listen to this later on. I'm going to put filler in there so you can think about it. And then when you're ready to respond, I'll know how to just jump right out of it. So here we go. We talk about this one word, and this one word is success. Success is a hard idea that some people adhere to, agree to, or create their own terms. With success, do you adhere to a mantra or a saying? Have you created your own definition of success? Or do you not use success as a measuring tool? Because for me, I do not use success as a measuring tool. I created my own because I feel like success is waking up one day doing something and then the next day doing it just a little bit better. It doesn't have to have a measurement to it. It's just that there was enough evolution from what I did yesterday to today. So I told you a statement earlier that I said about my podcast 2 years ago. I probably wouldn't have had a guest like you on because I didn't have the caliber of show that I have now. And you were very humble and said what you said to me. But in my heart, because of those stepping stones and what some people would measure as getting to success, I have moved myself into an echelon that I'm comfortable with having any guest on my show. I don't care if you're a celebrity or whoever. I want to have people on that have things that make people think. Thought-provoking people. You are a thought-provoking person. So, once again, to help you out one more time, because I know I said a lot right there. Do you adhere to success? Or do you have adhere to the mantra of success, or do you have a success that you created on your own in your mind, or do you just not follow the whole idea of success?
Yeah, I think the word you said that really rings true to me is, like you said, evolution. Like I think it's evolving for me because it's something different at different stages of my life. And if it was just like one thing, like 5 years ago, I had this vision of what I wanted to achieve. And I looked back on it and it was all the things I did, like create this business focused on women, write a book for kids, write a book for women. I was like, check. I'm like, I did it all. So if that was my measure of success, I'm done. And then I'm like, what do I do now? So I think it's this evolution and you kind of pick it up as things happen and what comes of it. So then the writing happens, and now it's like, now what? Like, do I write another book, or what is my next audience then? Or, how do I present this information that I like so love and passionate and am passionate about to people? So I think it's just like, it's an evolution. It's kind of like you said, like raising the bar, because you achieve this and you look back and you forget to. I think we need to remind ourselves to look back on the accomplishments and the things we have done, because oftentimes it's like, okay, on to the next thing. And even with my book, my publicist is saying that. He's like, you're doing really good. And I'm like, well, I want to do this, this, and this, or I want, it's the whole, I want more. It reminds me of like Ariel in the movie.
Okay.
And I think it's evolving, but I think with that, we have to recognize our achievements, and we have to also give ourselves credit for the progress we have made, because we're really hard on ourselves. I think as well, I'm like kind of an overachiever, I think, in some ways. And so it's just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And you never get to like sit in that, like, wow, I did this. I wrote a book. That's amazing. And give it a moment before I'm like, now which book will I write? And so it's success. I think it's like, it keeps bringing more and more and more to you, but you have to also like be in it and really be in the moment and in your accomplishments.
Okay. And I like that. Now, my next question is really harsh and hard.
Okay.
We have lessons learned, and lessons learned to me are failure. I embrace failure better than I do when I win at something, because when I have failure, it teaches me a lesson. Like, it goes, hey, you did this and this did not click. This did not resonate. This did not provide a growth in the direction you want it to go. It's a growth in the direction of learning and education, which I take humbly. But to me, failure is a lesson learned. So what is failure to you?
Yeah, failure is just like I don't know. You're right. It's like a moment to pause, I think, and take a little bit more to think it through. That's how I see it, because the moments I failed, I usually like get back up and like go at it again, but like a different way.
Right. So it's like a lesson. It's an education.
Yeah. So I'm very determined. So it's like failure is something that kind of knocks you off course, and it serves as like an opportunity for you to just pause and think, like give it more time and thought, and then see what comes from, whatever it is, if you're ready to do it again, or maybe it's, I am not going to do that, but I'm going to do this instead. And this is why. So yeah, I think you're right. Great learning opportunity, lessons, so much to be learned from that. I talk about like money failures in my book, and I'm like, it's not a failure. Right. Let's call it a money lesson. Let's call it wisdom. So if we can more like dive into that and say like, that's good failure, because it means you're trying stuff that's new and uncomfortable. And that's what life's about.
So true. Now, our final question, and this one is, it's tough. This one's really tough to do, because we've gone over the highs and lows already. And here's one that's hard in today's society, because me and you grew up in the greatest generation that you could ever grow up in. We've seen technology evolve around us. We've lost some of the human interaction aspect of things. So being able to write a book, being able to get on Twitter, get on these different places and meet people, it's different for you and I, because we grew up on eye-to-eye contact, even telephone calls. No one wants to call anyone on a telephone anymore. So if there was something that you could take from our generation and bring into this generation and keep it here and instill it in every young person, be it technology or just something that's not around anymore, what would that thing be? For me, it would be this. I just want there to be patience again, because in this day and age, I seen some kind of fiasco that happened on Saturday. We see things that happen in the world. Patience is not a virtue anymore. People only give you a certain amount of time, be it positive or negative, to get things across. People don't have patience in positive or negative situations. It's just, how convenient can it be? Can it be like the convenience store? Can I go in and get a cold Pepsi? Can I get a cold Coke or a cold water or something real fast, quench my thirst, and then move on in life? Instead, when we were growing up, you had to have patience for things. Things like we were talking about evolving so much, things had to have an evolutionary step to them. It wasn't just right here and there. There was nothing convenient about our lives except having a car and our windows. We used to, some of us had to crank them down. Some people didn't have air conditioning in their cars, and now everyone, to a degree, keeps them in air conditioning and stuff like it. It's so many more modern conveniences now. And like I said, that whole thing about human interaction disappearing, like what we're doing right now, if we were doing this years ago, wherever you live and wherever I live, I'd have a radio station and you'd be coming down to the radio station. We'd be doing this right now.
Yeah.
But we have technology, so it makes, that's one great thing about now. But there's arts and things that are lost. So what was something from the past that you would bring to the present for everyone, your daughter and anyone, that we don't have now?
A funny one I was thinking about the other day was Blockbuster Video. I'm like, oh, a movie store? That's so fun, where you walk the aisles and like, it's the same like scrolling through Netflix, but you're walking the aisles and deciding what you want to watch. But that's not it. That's not my answer. That's just one I was thinking about the other day.
I'm going to do a plug about that later, because I have an episode about Blockbuster and the movies and dating with those. But go ahead.
That's so fun. But I think it's something to do with, because of my whole money vibe, has to be something to do with like the tangibility of money. Like I think we've lost the tangible element of like what money actually is, because we grew up with more like coins and paper money, which is disappearing. And there is an element of that is, because this is disappearing, it's this like instant gratification, like you say, and it's just tapping that children and young people don't even know really what money is or how much they have because of that. Like when there's this tangible element, we can see when it runs out. We learned more about like saving up for something. Now it's just like, oh, like my daughter's like, well, I want a credit card, mom. Like, can I have one? When do I get to have one? And I'm like, a credit card is not your money. Like, it's just, you're using someone else's money. And it's really scary to think that they don't get that, and that people are going to potentially put themselves in some really difficult financial situations because it's so easy to spend money now. And again, it's lost that tangibility to see like, I don't have any to spend. It's like, oh yeah, I still have room on the credit card. Like just tap or put it online and there it is.
And one thing that I'll say that I've noticed, and we talked about who I work for corporately, I've noticed that with us changing the over to not having human interaction with that, no one pays attention to the transaction fees that go along with everything. And if people would itemize and look at that stuff, like you talk about with what you do, and I hope that you give someone this kind of financial literacy, they would go back to paper money on a lot of things, because it's so many different hidden transactions, from the bank to the card to even the card issuer in some instances. Because sometimes you have a Visa card, but it's issued by a bank, and that bank has to pay surcharges to Visa, and people fail to realize that. And like I said, well, both of us growing up, financial literacy was different. When I was in fourth grade, I learned how to balance a checkbook. I learned what a CD was. I learned how to get a line of credit with a bank, an actual line of credit, not a credit card issued. Actually a credit card issued from a bank, not a debit card. I learned how to go and get money to buy a house and how to do it in a formatted way. And I'm talking about, this was fourth grade.
Yeah.
We've had home ec, and some people had it fourth through sixth grade. I learned how to sew. It was certain things, elements that the kids don't have today. So I want to thank you so much for that, Kaylee. So in wrapping everything up real quick, we have to do this one last amazing thing here. I need you to give a shout out to whoever and whomever has been in your life that has helped you evolve into the lady that I'm speaking to today. One person I know in particular is your mom. And I want to tell your mom, thank you for these three things. First, for being tough. If she wasn't tough, you wouldn't be who you are today. Second, for having fortitude, because she could have went and bought you that Super Nintendo at an adjusted time. She could have cut back something here or there and got it. But she gave you something else. The last thing, she gave you self-worth at that age. And you stated that numerous times in this episode. I don't know if you noticed that, but the self-worth is more than having confidence in yourself. It's more than like the bravado that people put out there. You showed in this interview, and you showed in life that, hey, I can go out here and do this with the principles that I've learned and the simple idea of this. I can get out here and make money to go into any equation that I pursue. And in doing that, that has made you the financially independent woman you are and the bright smile that you have today. For any of the video watchers right now on Twitch and anybody else that sees something later on down the road. So I want to thank your mom for that. So let me pass it along to you so you can thank whoever else.
I was going to say mom. So you've already thanked my mom? Darn. Okay, sorry. I was mom first. And then I think my daughter, Ivy, like I have learned so much from becoming a mom to her. Again, like just she's been my inspiration for so many of the projects. It's like this, I can do anything and I want to be doing anything to show her what I can do, what I'm capable of. Like when my books came today, Money Wise Mabel, she grabbed one and was like, do I get a copy? And she was so excited and said that she told her best friend that she was going to get a copy. And she told her best friend's mom about my other book. I'm like, oh my gosh, my daughter is like, she's out here 9 years old and she's advertising for me.
Promotion. You can't go wrong.
So sweet. She's like my biggest fan, my little sidekick. We go everywhere together. She's so fun.
Okay. And in ending this show real fast, everybody knows that my famous common phrase is this: to seek the uncommon. And this right here is uncommon. I want you all to surround yourself with this. And the great amazing thing about this podcast is inside of the show notes. The show notes will have everything that was detailed here that's poignant. We will be concise. We'll get everything out there that you need to know to be involved in this matter. So I am JR and I am signing off. Kaylee, please leave us with a great ending to this show and give us your last name one more time because I didn't want to chop it up.
Boisvert. Kaylee Boisvert.
Boisvert. Got it.
Okay. Well, I just want to say to the audience, thank you so much for listening. And I just want to say, give yourself permission to feel good about your money right now. Like just do that one thing, permission to say, I'm okay. I've got this. I'm starting with a clean slate today.
Okay. Thank you. Hey everybody, this is JR from West Virginia and Commonplace, and I am here to tell you about Anchor Nebula and their Go Anywhere series of projectors. They are some of the best projectors you can use when you're on the go, going camping, just even around the house. And these models include the Capsule 2, the Capsule 3 laser, and the brand new Mars 3. So definitely take time to go out and grab one of these projectors, and you will be immersed in an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. Remember, Anchor Nebula is the way to go.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at onecommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening and tune into the next episode.